My story is a few years ago, or 2 years ago actually, I was fitted out with a cochlear coax implant to have in Australia because I've had the inherited hearing loss for something like 40 years. And that the cochlear implant was suggested to me because I was losing hearing, or 3 different types of hearing loss, and it was rapidly decreasing over time. And so a friend of mine who's a professor of audiology in Australia got me onto the people in Germany who have developed a new device, which is a new way of handling people like myself. And he suggested I go through the process and see whether I was a candidate. And yes, I was lucky, but it was, in a way, I've been holding on to this for so many years. And so I went through that process, and I had to make the decision within 2 weeks with Professor Briggs whether I was going to go through and have the operation. And I knew the operation meant that I would be hooked up to the cochlear department at Melbourne University for, whatever, the audiology department for the rest of my life, basically. And the implant would be in my head, and the computers have to say whether you can alter it every 3 months, and then voices wouldn't be the same as they normally would be. They'd be more robotic. In addition, music would be hard to hear as well. Before the implant, I'd gone down to, I don't know whether you can visualise a hearing range. They'd both gone down to about 20 down the bottom. Both had significantly declined. I had one ear have a implant, which was a stapedectomy when I was 26 years old. That was a long time ago, to give me some hearing. So that lasted for about 20 years, and then that didn't work anymore. And then they wanted to do a second one, and I didn't go ahead with that and continued on. Went to 2 hearing aids, and then went to have this cochlear implant in October of, not last year, 2 years ago anyway. And so I went through this process. Daughter came with me to the audiology department, met with Professor Briggs and all these other people, and my engineering guy that actually helped invent the cochlear implant. Peter, he said to me he could see all the statistics from Germany were relatively good. Only 17 people had had the operation in the world, and hallelujah, I was going to be lucky. I was going to be chosen to get one, have this amazing operation. And I had to make this decision by this Thursday, and it was 2 weeks. And I remember Professor Briggs ringing me up, and he said to me, "So what have you decided, Robyn?" And I said, "No, I'm not going to do it." And the reason why I said no is because just before that, someone had given me Dr. Joe Dispenza's book, and I'd read that, and I thought, is there a possibility? And that's how I thought about it. Is there a possibility that I could do something else? So I thought, no, I'll say no. And then I went to the first progressive in Melbourne, and then an advanced in Queensland, and one in Mexico. Even though I went to those workshops, I don't know that I was attached to this. I was attached to this thing. It was my identity. So it was as though that I put it in a too hard basket. I went along to the advanced courses and did what I did and heard all the words, but I wasn't fundamentally getting it. I really didn't hear the possibilities, and I had probably unconsciously said, no, it's really not going to work for you, Robyn. I mean, these other people are okay. And in fact, I heard Dr. Joe say the other day, 3 people have had their hearing back, and I thought to myself, yeah, right, that was my honest reaction to it. I really thought that. And so, okay, so that was that. And then I've been to 3 events, and every time I've come to the event, I've come along and I've had this little phonax thing that I had stuck on a speaker and placed myself within 30 metres, or just recently found out it could be 60 metres. But anyway, I had to place that there so I could hear what Dr. Joe was saying. And then I go into the first meditation, and there's a lot of static. And I'm thinking, oh my God, now I'm hearing feedback, and I don't know what to do about that, and I won't be able to hear the words when go into meditation. Anyway, I did go into the meditation, and that was the first meditation on the first day we were here, which would have been the Monday morning. And I had it was very emotional for me, an enormous amount of sadness in a way, huge amount of sadness, which flipped over very quickly to euphoria of I just laughed at the absurdity of everything, just blew me away. So I went from being really sad to being really, really happy. And that was fine. So I did that. And then I did, at some stage, either preceding that or around that time, I thought, what would happen if I just threw these 2 hearing aids into the room or into the audience? And I thought, no, you couldn't do that, Robyn. That's just an absurd, stupid thing to do. You don't do that sort of stuff because they're your security. You've got to hang on to them. So I go back into the meditation in the afternoon, and for some reason, I used the right one to adjust the left one in volume. So I had to take it out, and I thought, that's funny. I can hear Joe's voice exactly the same when it's out and whether it's in. And I'm thinking, oh, you stupid Rob, this is not really happening. And so I put it back in again, put it out again. And so therefore I realised that I was actually hearing, I didn't really need this hearing aid, but at the same time there was this insecurity of letting go of it. But I kept sort of experimenting over the period of that day and the next day. Is this working? Isn't it working? Is this working? And eventually on the second day I thought, it is working. And I felt a feeling of gratitude, the fact that it is the case. I can still hear now with just 1 hearing aid, not 2, but I'm holding on to this hearing aid still in my pocket. I've still got it in my pocket here, and I think I've got at some stage let it go and trust that it is the unified field, and here I am. And I feel very grateful to have done the work, and yeah, there's only more to do. I reckon I've gone part of the way and I can do a bit more. So I am so grateful. I'm so appreciative of the work, and hope more people do it.